use of waste. As with time, I'm sure you would need more waste to ensure that you enrich your soil. So are you also looking at perspective of going to invest in another country so that you collect, because there are a lot of, there's a lot of waste that is not being used. So is that an opportunity for you to go and invest in another country and then transport that waste to your country? Just a question.
I think we have another one here.
Thank you. My name is Stuart.
Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the World Economic Annual Meeting of New Champions and in Tianjin, and welcome to those of you here in the room and joining us from around the world, and an early Eid Mubarak for those celebrating. And really this is a moment to celebrate the innovation and hard work and the leadership of a very important group of stakeholders working to innovate for food security. I'm Tanya Strauss. I'm the head of food and water at the World Economic Forum, and I'm so honored to introduce our distinguished panel, starting with His Excellency Faisal Ali Ibrahim, the Minister of Economy and Planning of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Suzanne Tate, to my far left, the Chief Design Officer of Smart Oasis Farm, and Adair Gallo, the CEO of Taraxi. Welcome. And welcome to all of you, because food systems understood holistically represent over $10 trillion, or over 12% of global GDP today. 40% of all jobs are somehow connected into the food system. Take that in, because that's tremendous. It also contributes to 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions, consumes 70% of our fresh water withdrawals, and contributes to significant deforestation and habitat loss. So we have a lot of work to do on the set of challenges that are connected to food. Innovation to solve these issues, the technologies are often available, but not necessarily adopted and not at scale. That is a big part of why we're here today. How do we focus not just on the innovation, but the ecosystems and the innovators that can really create bottom-up, demand-driven solutions to address these challenges? I'm so pleased to have the forum work together with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia through our Uplink platform to respond to these challenges. Thank you. To work collaboratively to source solutions to these kinds of issues and accelerate action on food security, food waste, food stability, and climate-smart agriculture. Uplink, the open innovation platform of the World Economic Forum and partners, works to unlock a revolution of entrepreneurs while bridging the ecosystems in which they can work, operate, finance, and scale up their solutions to really apply impact. It's so wonderful as we think about the celebratory spirit of this afternoon to launch jointly with our partners, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the top innovators for food. Uplink has launched a number of top innovators across the SDG categories, but this is the first cohort working on food and arid climates. And it's my honor to invite His Excellency Minister Faisal to address us in terms of the journey and the leadership he has personally shown and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is showing on these issues. Over to you, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Tanya, for your exceptional leadership in addressing the critical issues of food and water scarcity compounded by climate challenges. And happy Eid to you too. I think there's no better way to celebrate Eid than by learning, and today is an example here at the AMNC of the vast learning that we all have been exposed to. Immediate action is imperative to address multiple challenges in our water-scarce desert environment. This includes cultivating food, combating prolonged droughts, mitigating desertification, and unpredictable rainfall patterns. This action covers the entire food supply chain, promoting healthy consumption, but also reducing food loss. We are dedicated to achieving the SDGs and have collaborated with stakeholders, particularly in food entrepreneurship, to drive transformative shifts in food systems for long-term sustainability. If you look at the latest WHO reports on droughts, and we live in the region in one of the most drought-stressed and heat-stressed areas globally, but also on malnutrition, there are 3 important facts that are probably worth highlighting today. The global food crisis is alarming, with around 830 million people suffering from hunger and 2.3 billion experiencing moderate to severe food insecurity. And in addition to that, shockingly, 3.1 billion people cannot afford a healthy diet, leading to nutritional deficiencies. 2, on food insecurity specifically, there has been a staggering surge in the number of individuals experiencing acute food insecurity. Since 2019, this figure has soared by over 150%, surpassing 345 million people worldwide. And 3, the impact of climate change exacerbated this crisis. By 2030, 700 million people could be displaced by drought, and 149 million children may face stunted growth due to malnutrition. As such, we have introduced initiatives in Saudi, such as the Saudi Green Initiative, the National Food Security Strategy, and the Water Conservation Program, in addition to the Middle East Green Initiative. These efforts prioritize sustainability and address specific hurdles related to food security. And to further address these challenges, we have launched, in partnership with Uplink, the Food Ecosystems in Arid Climates Challenge. This initiative invites innovative solutions to enhance food security in the region and beyond. We are proud of the impactful accomplishments of the challenge winners in areas such as agriculture, irrigation, alternative proteins, something we need, by the way, and food waste reduction. They will receive our full support and funding to continue their crucial work. Today marks a significant milestone as well in our pursuit of sustainable agriculture as we introduce the Smarter Climate Farmers Challenge. This global initiative calls for climate-smart agriculture solutions to improve food production, enhance farmers' resilience, and promote zero-emissions practices. By prioritizing knowledge, resource efficiency, inclusive technology, and innovating financing, we're determined to drive a transformative shift in food production, and that can effectively tackle climate change and ensure a sustainable future for agriculture. These challenges align with the SDGs, which we fully support and are dedicated to accomplish, and offer economic opportunities. Together, we can combat hunger, improve livelihoods, and create a sustainable future for all. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Excellency, and I mean, for your tremendous leadership on this. And if I may, having worked in the agriculture and food sector for the last 20 plus years, it is not often that we see the Minister of Economy and Planning up here championing the importance of food and sustainable agriculture, the role of farmers, and how innovation can unlock so many of the barriers. So a special thanks to you on behalf of the agriculture community that continues to fight the good fight and needs more and more support. I'm so humbled also for us to now turn to our two of our top innovators in the cohort, and I can tell you they're infusing so much energy into the discussion here at AMNC in terms of not just the litany of challenges, but how we can take a different mindset and start to solve some of these problems. So Adair, let me come to you first. Of course, Excellency just mentioned that a fifth of the world is desert and 70% of fresh water is being consumed in the food system. We must find pathways for sustainable solutions. Tell us about Taraxi and how you're addressing this.
Yes, so Taraxi is started in a research laboratory at KAUST, Saudi Arabia, and we're basically a water research lab. And when we realized that the water use in agriculture was so immense, we thought, okay, why don't we try to tackle this problem from the agriculture perspective? And then, you know, learning how to grow plants, you realize, okay, we need, let's break down the problem. We need water and minerals, and we really approached this problem from a systematic way. So we developed Sandex, which basically is water repellent sand mulch. We have plenty of sand in Saudi Arabia, so we use that to reduce the evaporative loss of water from the soil. Once we solved that, we thought, okay, what's next? And then we turned to the soil. And to grow plants, the soil is really, really important. And unfortunately, in Saudi Arabia, we have alkaline, sandy soils. So we developed our own biochar formulation, specifically designed for these alkaline conditions in Saudi Arabia. So what we're doing is that we're collecting organic wastes and converting that into a very stable form of carbon. And once we apply that carbon in the soil, it just works as a sponge for nutrients. So it absorbs nutrients and releases as slowly as the plants need. And I think approaching this problem from these two perspectives allowed us to grow food in the desert, to plant native trees, and I really believe that these solutions can really help these sustainable green initiatives, not only in Saudi Arabia, but worldwide, in all these arid lands and desert environments that we have.
I mean, it's super exciting to start talking about soil. This is the second media briefing in this room this week that talks about the role of healthy soil. So, I'm getting jazzed about it, but we'll come back to that in a second. Suzanne, I wanted to just discuss one of the other statistics that Excellency talked about in terms of the 3 billion people that don't have access to healthy diets. How do we look at this in terms of the role of the food we're already producing that's not being consumed, the access and affordability of that food, as well as the health and nutrition? Over to you on Oasis Farms.
Thank you, Tanya. Hello, everybody. I am not going to disappoint. Coming to you from UK, I'm going to start talking about the weather. We're very good at that, to break the ice. But actually, when you put 3, 4, 5 farmers into the room, the conversation naturally will go towards the weather, because it is the weather that affects their livelihood. And it doesn't need to be extreme. It could just be the wrong timing of the rain or the drought being too long, and all of a sudden the entire investment and the profits is wiped out. So we are facing incredible losses when it comes to changing weather patterns, and the drought impacts agriculture almost exclusively, with floods being close second. And that's not only in the monetary sense, but also in a nutritional sense, as you said, Tanya, and put it in a perspective. If we are to turn the losses into calorific value, we could feed probably around 7 million people annually, just from what we lose through the changing weather patterns. So I think it is a really urgent, pressing issues to tackle at this point.
Fantastic. Well, I want to congratulate both of you and the full cohort, and maybe just coming back to the other part of what matters. So yes, we found you, we brought you all together, but how do we support you to scale up the solutions that you're working on? What are the ways in which partners can get involved and help to apply these solutions in the demand locations, geographies, communities that really need them? Suzanne, do you want to come at that first, and then Adir?
Right. So Smart Oasis is a technology that enables seed germination and plant growing indoors under perfectly optimized conditions for the plant growth. But I think our core mission really is to enable the technology, make it commercially viable, and support the food growers of today. Because if we do not support our farmers today and help them to become more resilient and profitable in the future, then I don't know who's going to grow our food for our children tomorrow. So I think really our main focus is not only on the technology and the innovation, but also how that innovation is integrated into our rural landscape and also in our urban and civic infrastructure, because we cannot have sustainable cities if we do not talk about the food waste. And at the moment, if food waste was a country, it would be third largest emitter in the world. So I think we have a lot of issues to address. And instead of putting the onus on our food growers and farmers, where all of that pressure for them to constantly improve efficiencies on the farm, we also need to address the supply chain, which is broken, and address the food waste in the process of delivering food. So I think growing food hyper-locally is really essential if we are to have sustainable cities in the future.
Fantastic. So we're talking about redistributing the burden that farmers often carry and different small-scale actors within the value chain. We're also talking about redistributing the value. So who are the partners that help us to work on that type of underlying incentive structure?
I would say, really, we cannot solve this problem unless we come at it collectively from the place of awareness. So I think everybody needs to become a partner. We've got to stop this tribalism and a competition where everyone's trying to solve the problem in silos and starting from scratch every time. There is so much innovation happening in this space this week. It is absolutely fascinating, and I am so excited about being able to collaborate to really reimagine what the farm of the future looks like, where we can pair up the regenerative and eco-centric ways and bring the innovation and technology and use it in the right way. I think it's all about positioning the technology and innovation and pairing it up with regenerative and eco-centric ways of farming.
Suzanne, you're being too diplomatic. Everyone needs to partner. I want to know which partners, and are they here, and how do we connect you? So we're going to come back to all of you in a second, but Adair, over to you.
Yeah, talking of partnership, I think events like this connect people from different segments. And just talking of partnership, Suzanne just made the connection this morning, and we reached out to stakeholders from Saudi, from other industries, and we made connection from the waste generation side, and that's an input material for us. So initially my focus was just like, how can I help the plant grow better? But then in doing that, in having to create this material, we realized that we're solving not only a problem for the plant, but also from the waste generation side. And being part of events like this, bringing people together from different areas and making those collaborations happen is really fundamental to driving forward innovation and development.
So you're busting the myth that it's not all about startup capital and finance. It's actually about those partners. Scale is not only about the capital, but it's about the value chain. How do we link up to some of the smart ways in which we can have a multiplier effect? So I think the Uplink team is doing a good job, but I still will push you both on the financing, because there's startup capital, and I think there's this sort of investment continuum that helps to make this sustainable for communities like the farmers and for the value chain partners that you're working with. But maybe we can open it up for a couple of questions. I know we have a very short panel today, but if there's any sort of burning questions, either on the technologies and the solutions themselves or on the wider ecosystem that can support them and the other cohort. If you raise your hand, we can bring a mic to you. Yes.
Thanks. From South China Morning Post. I'd like to ask a question about the Saudi Arabia cooperation with China in this agriculture sector. Is there any specific cooperation program going on, and what, especially in the innovation and to ensure the food security, to reduce the food waste, and especially on how to better counter the increasing threat of the climate change? Thanks.
Sure, I can. Do you want to collect some questions? Yeah, sure.
That's okay, and then we'll come back to you. Any other questions before we come back? Just over here, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Irene from Zambia. I just want to find out on the issue of use of waste. As with time, I'm sure you would need more waste to ensure that you enrich your soil. So are you also looking at perspective of going to invest in another country so that you collect, because there are a lot of there's a lot of waste that is not being used. So is that an opportunity for you to go and invest in another country and then transport that waste to your country? Just a question.
I think we have another one here.
Thank you. My name is Stuart. I'm from Alaska. We're also an agricultural technology company. I guess my question is, I think a lot of focus on innovation is talking about technology, developing technology, IoT devices, and having spent the last 10 years building a supply chain to support the innovation. I think a lot of the overlooked parts of kind of innovation is on the manufacturing side, the supply chain side, the operational side. And so I guess my question is kind of what would be some of the most kind of high impact partnerships that you guys are mentioning? What would be kind of like a dream wish list of partnerships that would accelerate kind of your scale ups?
Thanks, Stuart, for that. I think you said it better than I was trying to earlier. So now we'll finally get to the bottom of it. Any last questions? Otherwise, I think we have enough to go to the Henk, please.
Oh, thanks so much. Amazing. We support, I'm Henk Ovink from the Dutch government, water ambassador. We support Uplink and the water change. I'm curious, what's your biggest barrier to scale? Because we'd like to make you do what you do at a larger scale for the best impact. But we need to understand where your barriers are. So, you know, your worsts, you know, your nightmares that we can take away.
All right, I love it. Stuart, Henk, dreams and nightmares. Excellency, let's please come to you first for the first question, and then happy for the two of you to tackle some of those.
Sure, I'll be very quick. I think Saudi's very keen on energy security, food security, and the global debt challenge. And these are some of the global challenges that we're looking at. At the same time, Saudi and China are enjoying a very strong bilateral trade relationship, but also a very healthy cross-investment relationship. We're talking in the billions of dollars. I can discuss with you after this session the details on the agriculture side, but I think a lot of the discussions have to do with technologies as well that will help us transition in terms of energy in a more prudent and pragmatic way, but also to explore technologies that will help us with the future of mobility and other, you know, EVs is something China's impacted China's economy greatly the last few years, and that's one of the areas we're looking at as well. I can share with you after this session.
Thank you so much. Adair, do you want to try both the questions around multiple geographies and sort of going across borders for new investments, and then of course we have to hear about the wish list and the nightmares.
Yeah, so about investment in other countries, or let's say taking other waste streams. I mean, we have to be first aware of our limitations. As a startup company, our main limitation is execution. So we cannot do all that we want to do. So that's why for now we're focusing on certain waste streams, particularly that we have plenty available in Saudi Arabia, and that we can tackle more easily, I would say. So that's like a first step that I think we can take without a lot of effort, let's say. But of course, the material can be made from any organic waste. So of course, in the future, as we scale other waste streams and potentially diversification to other countries is an option, of course.
Nightmares, or you want a minute for that one?
Sorry?
Nightmares? Stuart wants to know what's your wish list, and Henk wants to know what's your nightmare.
Okay, so again, our barriers are execution, really. So it's really like taking the time to execute the projects, to scale up manufacturing, and to reach customers. So I would say like the biggest barrier for our team is like recruiting talent. I would say for us that's been like a major point. And you know, if we could get help on that, I would be really happy.
Good wish list. Yeah. Suzanne?
Right, so I think to answer the question about the waste, there is a saying that the waste is only the lack of imagination. So I think looking at the circular economies and the possibilities and opportunities with the waste, it just requires our creativity to kick in, to really utilize it, because nature does it beautifully. So if we optimize and observe how nature deals with waste, I think we've got a lot of learning to do on that front. In terms of answering your questions, gentlemen, I think the dream projects, and for me, I think I'm already working on one in London with the community kitchen. which is a very holistic approach to food system, and I'm so excited about it. It's like Christmas every day. Honestly, I think when you surround yourself with people who are problem solving, even from the perspective that perhaps you didn't realize, it is absolutely incredible what you can result. So whether that is circular food approach, harvesting the surplus, distributing through local economies, and then creating the urban environment, future farms, looking at the sustainable ways of collecting surplus with the demand, and also participating and helping the rural economies to thrive, because we cannot really have the entire rural communities moving into the cities. It's not sustainable. Cities also rely on the rural economies to support us. You know, London, as a 10 million people city, we import all of the agriculture into town, and that's a huge amount of emissions. I think it's about 15.5 million tons of emissions just to bring the food and feed the people of London, yet 1/3 of that gets wasted in the food waste processes. And in terms of the challenges, I think it's the mindset and redefining what does the scale actually look like in the future. And I think there is a lot of work to be done on our mindset. What does the scale up look like? And how do we potentially have a distributed scale as opposed to just concentrated one? I think that would be the main thing. It's just the mindset.
Fantastic. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's a different mindset and conversation that you're having. And I see a number of the cohort actually here. Do you want to just stand for a second so we can acknowledge you and the work you're doing? I think the scale of the pipeline that's being developed here in terms of innovators and the support that they need. Yeah, go ahead. Congratulations. It's just so wonderful. Thank you for doing that. And before I invite Excellency, if he wants to share any of his wish list or nightmares, just in case, because I don't want to exclude you from that. Maybe just one thing you've learned this week. You're meeting a lot of the ecosystem or some of the ecosystem here in Tianjin. You've mentioned the sort of stakeholder outreach you've been doing. You're also meeting each other. And I think the collective brain trust that you've all brought to and energy you've brought to our conversations is immense. And just a drop in the bucket in terms of the innovators out there and the ecosystems that they could connect to. So maybe one learning, and then I'll welcome Excellency for his final thoughts. Suzanne, over to you first.
Right, so I just feel really humbled to see the immense participation in this conference this week. There's just so many people trying to solve the problems in their local regions and the challenges that we face on the ground. There is no one solution fits all. We really have got to look at how do we address the regional challenges and learn from each other's. So I think collaboration and just working together was the highlight for me.
I think for me, I would say I attended just this morning a session on innovative thinking and approach to innovation. And as the presenter was discussing these points, I was like, whoa, I do that. Like that's how I approach problems. And I didn't know there was like a literature or theories behind that. And so, you know, I think, you know, innovation is not something like out of the world, and it's just like a way of thinking.
Absolutely. No, I think that really resonates, Adira, as well. I think what you're doing is also dispelling the myths of the nebulous food systems transformation. You have proof points and proof of concept of how to approach this on the ground from an impact perspective, and that's exactly, I think, what we need to energize this movement for food systems. So thank you both for your contributions, and I won't just wish you good luck because we're all in it with you now. So for better or for worse, you can't get rid of us. Excellency, I know we have one more task to do, you and I, in terms of the forward-looking next phase of this collaboration, but any final thoughts from you in terms of what you heard?
Sure, thank you, Tanya. I think, first of all, congratulations to the cohort. I think this is very impressive, and this energizes us to continue this moving forward. I think one of the things we discussed in our meetings in the past was how do we extend through the uplink platform, or maybe through the partners as well, additional support. Even if partners not necessarily who supported one challenge or another, but in general, because I think access to capital is, as you said, a concern. But I think access to smart capital, access to mentorship, access to true partnership is something very important. So I think on the wish list side, how can we turn this into a product, if you will, that is of value to the winners or to the members of the community in uplink and beyond? No, maybe the nightmare or the concern is, I think, is a talent thing, right? So talent is scarce, and I think there's a lot more that all entities, public sector all over the world, private sector, and NGOs can do to develop more their institutional capabilities, and with that develop talent that could be needed to address some of these challenges. I think people is the #1 objective.
No, I think that's very clear. So smart capital, smart partnerships, but also really thinking about how we pool our collective thinking, resourcing networks to attract back the next generation of players in the food system. And I think what you're demonstrating is exactly the kind of solutions. I'm not saying we shouldn't be going out there and exploring what's happening in space, but there's a number of ways to excite that generation for what's going on right here, whether it's in our soil or whether it's in the way we produce our food. So thank you for that. And it's my honor to also, together with Excellency Minister Faisal, announce the next challenge on climate smart agriculture. So it's a global call to action, and Uplink will be managing that together with our partners, and we're really looking forward to a robust set of applicants. So we invite you all to share this broadly, and for those online, I know you're tuned in and we can't wait to hear from you. So thank you to our amazing panel, and thank you to all of you.
Thanks. Congratulations.
Start to slow down, and people see the demands are actually not that dramatic. When we look at the prediction for the raw material, based on the Bloomberg's energy future prediction, by 2040, and people think in the EV market, they probably will reach 4.5 terawatts. We already talk about the terawatt hours, not gigawatt hours. So that's tremendous in terms of the, and also for the, if you consider energy storage system, ESS, that add another 1 to 2 terawatt hours. So people think, wow, if you calculate the